all their marketing. Please welcome Samantha Howe. So we're going to, we do need microphones. Okay. Actually, why don't we start? We're going to start. Best introduction is a short. Yeah, you have to turn them on. Okay, yeah, there we are. We've only been doing this for 17 years, by the way. So let's start with a clip that I think, this is a pretty good overview of both the product, but also the tone of the brand.
I've been wishing and hoping, sorting and praying to recycle all this plastic away.
Whoa, 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 whoa! You know that only 9% of plastic actually gets recycled, no matter how much we put in the bin.
9%?
What?
Grove Collaborative is moving beyond plastic with sustainable cleaning products that really work. And by 2025, Grove will be 100% plastic-free.
Okay, we'll dish about Drew in a minute, but let's start by just talking about an overview of the Grove brand, because you're two things at once. You're not only a CPG product provider that's distributed online and retail, but you're also a retailer yourself. So why don't you tell us about that product and platform mix?
Yeah, so Grove started in 2016. We're a certified B Corp, really with the D2C platform. And initially, we were just selling third-party products. And then we realized there was room for us to create our own, the most sustainable, best, most natural products that are out there. We're really on a mission to reimagine and transform the products you use at home into a force for human and environmental good. You know, we really believe that every home in America should have access to, you know, clean, safe, natural, and sustainable products. And the company has just grown and grown since then. We went public this year, and we have since launched Omnichannel, and that's been a real...
But you have the reusable products.
We
but
do,
then
yes.
as a retail platform, you're also selling other people's products.
Yes,
I
we
think
are.
that's an important piece here, because
Yeah.
that changes the equation for you as a marketer.
Yeah, it does, it does. We're a retailer and a CPG company, a digital-first CPG company. So it's been an interesting mix, for sure.
So we'll get back to that part.
Yeah.
But let's go into the moving into retail, because
Yes.
you started in just a couple of years ago, in 2020, with one retailer, Target.
Yes.
Which is a good get. But initially, how did you have to reorganize your marketing focus and your allocation in response to that one retailer?
In the beginning, you know, we sort of built the messaging around the one brand being available in one retailer, and we, you know, were able to take that on with the existing frameworks we had in place with the D2C. The retail customer is very different than the D2C customer, but we had identified very clearly and early on what the messaging needed to be for retail around Grove Co., which is our home care brand. It's different from Grove Collaborative, which is the D2C site. So it was, you know, strategically we understood that, you know, there were two separate things, but we were able to manage the launch process within the one team. And we had a separate retail team who were doing sort of everything related to retail, and the D2C sort of continued to work on.
So that was the key thing.
That was the key thing.
As you
Yeah.
siloed them.
We did in the beginning,
And were there
yeah.
particular channels, working with the one retailer, were there particular channels that you found, or messaging that you found, an allocation that were driving people to retail?
Well, retail, we really launched with, you know, it was a lot of awareness building. Purchases are being made in the aisle. You know, people were going to get their staples, their dish soap, and they were sort of stopped and arrested by our end caps. You know, we were very lucky that Target really supported the launch, and we had end caps in almost every store. So it really allowed us to...
you were really leveraging the presence.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it was a very physical moment. There wasn't a lot of room for messaging.
But did you feel you needed to do anything on the high level, top of funnel brand side to get people to recognize it when they saw it in store?
Yeah, we did a little bit of that. You know, it wasn't a natural place for us to play as a D2C. We were always very performance driven. But, you know, we launched big influencer campaigns to really drive awareness with very target specific media. We did a lot of promos within the Roundel network. So, you know, we utilized everything we could to help the target relationship.
What were the downsides of the initial way that you organized? Because I think one of the things that we're framing here in this little story is that you evolved. The omnichannel philosophy evolved into something else because of lessons you learned along the way, and those are the things I sort of want to highlight here.
Yeah, in the beginning, it was very much, we're launching in retail. Everybody shouldn't be distracted by this. Keep doing your regular jobs, you know. And very quickly, it became clear that that wasn't going to work. There are teams that are centrally you know, functionally important to both channels, and that we would have to ultimately create more of a cohesive messaging strategy to work across both. That certain teams, for example, the creative team, needed to have D2C inputs and retail inputs so that they could make a centralized decision on the right kind of media to create. So it's meant that teams have had to adapt. Our media buying team, who pretty much were running just for D2C, had to shift some of their goals. You know, they'd never had to work on an awareness kind of level before, so that was a learning curve for them.
So, now I want to bring in the retail piece, because as you're moving into retail, you're a retailer yourself. So in a sense, you're competing with your partners. How did you think about that, and how did you navigate that?
It was something that came up very early on, actually, with some of the discussions with the retailers, and that's where we really had to lean on, we're a CPG company, and this is an independent brand, and that the retailer arm of our business was very different, had a very different consumer, and a different messaging strategy. You know, the way we brought Grove Co. to life in retail is very different. We had to lean first on the performance claims, because that's what matters in the dish soap aisle. What's going to cut the, you know, clean the mess off my dishes. The sustainability almost came second as the next reason why. When you're on the D2C platform, that is the reason you come to us, is because of the service we provide there. Grove Collaborative is the only plastic neutral retailer in the world at the moment. That means for every bit of plastic you buy from our website, we are out there collecting and removing from the ecosystem the same amount of plastic.
So as you, so it was really important to define the difference, so to actually have those sort of separate brands, and be very careful with retailers to define the difference between the two of you. So as you're moving into retail, what were the lessons learned about how the ways in which, for instance, you used influencers, which were an important part of your business, I think? Because that sort of digital word of mouth is really key to this kind of messaging. So as you're moving into retail, even your strategy for using influencers had to evolve.
Yeah, influencers was a core part of the D2C growth early on. It really fueled a lot of our paid marketing very, very early on. We were early to adopt a lot of those tactics. And we realized when we wanted to shift and try that tactic in the retail space, we needed to find different kinds of influencers. It was less about the direct traffic push and more about buzz and creating awareness. There's very specific retailer influencers. There's, you know, an influencer called Target does it again. They have like 1 million followers, and they're all about what's new and hot at Target. So we had to build campaigns specific for the channel, ultimately, that we were marketing in.
And let's get it, as we're moving along this evolution, let's keep track of how your footprint is actually expanding.
Yeah.
So you moved beyond Target, and where, tell us the story of the expansion and where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Omnichannel now it's becoming, you know, just a part of what we're doing. You know, currently Grove Co. is available in Kohl's, Mayer, CVS, we just announced that the other day, some smaller, you know, local grocery stores. We're considering, you know, the home improvement channel and other big retailers that I cannot name. But, you know, there's, it's just, our whole mission is about accessibility to the products so that every home, wherever you shop, 90% of the customers in our category shop at retail. So retail is an important part of what we're doing. And we see it fairly symbiotic with the D2C website, which is we can educate through sustainability in retail, get people used to using the products, and they can come and find the expanded range on the D2C site.
By the way, CVS doesn't have like a set of influencers, does it? Please don't tell me that.
I don't think CVS has
right.
but some of the other, there's Costco influencers and there's Target influencers. So,
So as you move into this broader footprint and you move out of just simply Target, you start rethinking the ways in which you're going to organize this internally to go beyond the silos. And what you characterize to me as an agency model, which really intrigues me, and that's what I'd like to dig into here, is what you mean by that. But also how you structured it differently from the way you had before and from the way in which I think maybe a lot of the folks out here have structured their marketing group.
Well, the company was originally structured as a D2C with the retail add-on. And I think what we did was we reorganized the company so that there were essentially two arms of the business with a centralized body, if you will. And the arms of the business are the retail and the D2C teams who are responsible directly for growth in those channels. But the centralized functions are, for example, the creative team, the brand marketing team. So we create the brand strategies and messaging for both that then both channels can go and use. We have a paid media team now. So both arms will submit their briefs and needs into the media team, and the media team has to now figure out, from a budgetary point of view, which of those needs can be met. There's always more needs than there is money to be able to, to create things with. So, it creates a very sort of briefing in, analyzing the actual needs versus wants, and the business impact, and then sort of we spit things out.
So there is internally, you have a pitching and briefing sort of process. Tell us a little bit about that, and then who ultimately makes the allocation decisions there? Because still somebody's going to have to call the shots among all of these different pitches coming in with all these different priorities and goals.
Yeah, and it has been challenging sometimes. I'll use the creative team as a great example. Producing high-quality creative is just expensive, and the needs for each teams can vary slightly. The products we have available at retail are not always the same on D2C. And the timelines that retail work on are much longer than D2C. So what we've had to do is, A, train the D2C people to have their briefs ready earlier than they would have ever imagined. Like we just completed March 2023, which has shaken the D2C team, but they got there. And, the creative team will have all those briefs come in and then figure out what kind of photo shoot, video shoot they need to put together, how they're going to parcel out the day, what the business impact of these assets is going to be. Is something vital for retail? Is something vital for the D2C? And then we sort of have a bit of a roundtable discussion, like what are people willing to let go of? Because we can't do everything. And then it all seems to work out. And if there's any arguments, that's where myself or the VP of Creative will just come in and have to make the call.
So how has this structure actually altered your media allocation and spend and the strategy? By doing this and by making these internal changes, which as you say, requires some culture shifts.
Yeah.
And how is the end result actually impacted in terms of where you're really putting your media dollars? And do you think that you've actually learned something from this process about how better to allocate?
Yeah, I think what's been interesting is before the media dollars were solely with the function of driving traffic to the D2C. And it was very highly measured on a conversion basis. I think what's been interesting is the omnichannel expansion has really highlighted the need to grow the awareness of the brand so that people really recognize us and understand us, so that no matter where they're making that purchase decision, either they get served the ad online or they're standing in a Target aisle, they know, oh yeah, Grove. I know what Grove stands for. And so that had to bring in a new layer of goals, a new layer of understanding how to invest those kind of dollars. It was something that perhaps some of the skill set on the D2C team wasn't there, and we had to supplement for that. And then the retail team have had to really educate on shopper media and how to invest that, and you know, what we do there. So it's been a really interesting learning curve. I will say that we're spending fully across the funnel now in a way that perhaps we didn't as much before.
How has it changed your attribution and your measurement? Now that you're spending a little bit more at the top of
Yeah.
the funnel, which is notoriously harder to measure
Yeah.
and impact, what are the key dials that you're always looking at that's most important?
Yeah, I mean, we're measuring our brand awareness now in a way. In the early years, we just didn't, you know. And for many years, you know, I don't think it was something that was a priority. You know, the priority was, you know, when you're a fast-growing D2C, it's, you know, keeping the wheels moving there. You know, we have to, you know, the conversion metrics are still there. They're still important. So, you know, we're still measuring those things. And then on the shopper side, you know, we're looking at sales and velocity, but the timing of everything, and there's had to be more patience with data because, you know, in the early years, you know, we were very heavily reliant on paid social. It's instant data.
Right.
And you can get hooked on that instant read, and you make changes in the moment. And we've had to be a little more patient with some of our strategies and understanding that it'll take time. Television for us took some time, and actually now it's up and running, and we're getting really good data back, understanding the impact of that. But that's been a very important, you know, the TV ad everyone just saw was very much a brand awareness ad. It doesn't talk specifically about products, it just talks about Grove and the mission, hoping to just get people to understand what we stand for so that when they're making those decisions in the aisle.
Are you seeing and making those connections between the top of the funnel spend and bottom of the funnel results? And
Yeah,
actual
we are.
conversions?
We are.
And how are you doing that? How are you making those connections?
Well,
what sorts of things are you seeing?
Yeah, it's been slower, like I said. You know, it took some time, and there was a moment of nervousness where everyone was like, it's been 3 months and we've been spending, you know, why don't we know what's going on? But, you know, once we hit the 6-month mark and we could really see the impact. I mean, the beauty is through some of the streaming channels and things like that and connected TV, we're able to see those results pretty quickly. We're running 2 different types of ads. We know that sort of the upper funnel spending is helping all boats rise a little bit, and it's allowed us to get a little bit more tactical in some of the other channels. You know, we don't have to use paid social to introduce ourselves as much anymore. We can use it more as a conversion tactic.
Okay. How has it changed your staffing in terms of hiring?
Yeah.
Because you've changed the structure, you've changed the remits for almost everybody. So how has this actually changed who and how you hire?
Yeah, I mean, we did go through a pretty significant reorg, and it was painful for some teams, you know. We've had to, it's been a real challenge to find, you know, talent that has a depth and wealth of knowledge in the D2C space, you know, and in the retail space. That's not always the case. So I think what we've had to do is sort of learn and grow and, you know, kind of try to cross-pollinate teams where we can. Creating the centralized model has been really helpful because, again, for example, the creative team, we have a feedback loop with them. We keep them updated, what's working, what works in retail, what's working in D2C, and they're learning and growing as this goes on. So it's, you know, it's been really an interesting time, you know, much like other companies, we did, you know, have to do a little bit of a reduction in headcount earlier this year. But the team is sort of very well positioned now for what's to come.
What are the key downsides of using the agency model? I mean, you made a choice. Can't all be good.
Yes.
What are the key weaknesses or things you're looking out for or trying to fix about it?
I think you know, bandwidth is, you know, always a challenge as receiving briefs in, you know, that there is a process that has to be put in place, which it feels like it can take time. Is it really necessary to sort of scrutinize every request from every team? But I think, you know, the 2 arms of the business need to understand that the centralized function only has a certain amount of budget, only has a certain amount of time in a day to be able to produce all the assets needed. And so sometimes we have to say no, you know, and there is that pushback moment. And so that can be a real challenge. But I think as long as everyone stays, you know, in a very positive, you know, working relationship and understands that, you know, the reason and where things are coming from, you know, budget restraints, then it seems to go okay.
It seems that at the heart of this is a different idea of CPG marketing from what we've seen before. It seems like you're really coming up with or starting to develop a channel agnostic approach. And that may be the next stage for a lot of the D2Cs in this room.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about how you think this sets you up for actually coming at CPG marketing in a very different way from what we've been used to for the last 100 years?
Yeah, I mean, that was really always the ultimate ambition for Grove, was to sort of challenge the CPG status quo, that you can be, because we don't produce just one brand, we have many. We have a pet care brand, a personal care brand, a beauty brand, vitamin supplements brand, and then Grove Co., which is our biggest, most successful brand, is the home care brand. And so we're sort of controllers of our own fate in many ways, in a way that a lot of the big CPG companies, they don't have distribution arms, we do. We're very nimble and can adapt and hop on trends quickly, or see customer demand. We pull in the data from what customers are buying and what customers are really wanting, and then we try to formulate products that are better than what's available out there. We're not just going to create a product just to fill a market gap, but we'll do it if there's demand, if we can approach it in a very sustainable manner. And then that's allowing us to sort of then expand and take those brands outside into the rest of the retail world. So we sort of had this incredible system set up that's, our brands that are born are very tried and tested before they even hit the retail space.
By the way, we want to have your questions, prepare your questions, because now I want to talk about Drew. A lot of D2Cs are using celebrity endorsers and celebrity partners. In fact, here's a little anecdote. I've talked to the one major brand that is using a celebrity endorser. When I talked to one of their marketers, they told me when I was having them come to an event, they were contractually obligated not to mention the endorser. That was actually part of the contract. So these things get pretty thorny, I think.
Yeah.
I'm really curious, you have Drew Barrymore, obviously, about what you've learned about how best to use a celebrity in a lot of the brand. Where it works, where it doesn't work, and how you best use a celebrity.
Yeah, we waited a long time to find the right person. For us, it had to be very authentic, very real. They really had to care about what we're doing. Drew is actually also an investor in the company, so that's like she's, financially incentivized to really, help make the company a success. For us, the right moment to do it was when we were leaning more into trying to get people to be aware of the brand and understand the brand and what our mission was. Celebrities can drive sales, but that's not what they're really there for. They're really there for more media awareness, getting people to stop and pay attention when your TV ad is running, or Drew has a very recognizable voice. We use her in some radio ads and in some paid social. But she's not there to drive sales. That's not the primary, remit. We know celebrities can do that. I think if you can get a Kardashian, you're probably going to, sell some stuff. But that wasn't the right person for us.
So there's some channels you use her in and some channels that pretty much not there.
Yeah. What's been interesting is she hasn't been as effective as we thought in email, conversion, getting people to open emails, it's just not been as effective. But our social posts are getting seen by 10 times as many people because of her. So there's channels, and obviously the media stories have been incredible that we've been able to get. We've been in, features and articles that we would have never been in otherwise. So I think she's helping amplify certain channels, really well. She works well in TV. That is not a cheap shoot. So, we pick and choose those moments carefully. And there's SAG fees that come on top. So you have to be fully prepared with the celebrity for all the sort of hidden financial costs. It's not just the celebrity's fees. It's the hidden financial costs of every time they show up somewhere, what comes with that and things like that.
Oh, good tip. All right. Let's see if you have some questions.
It's very bright. I can't see.
Hello. Oh, sorry, that's loud.
We got you.
I'm sorry, I'm supposed to stand, aren't I? Not following the rules. I'm Megan Branch. I'm with Anuvo. I actually have a question related to the commercial. I wanted to know about the licensing of the music.
Oh, yeah. So we had to go through quite a lengthy process to get approval to use the Dusty Springfield track and then re-record it with lyrics that were relevant to the message we were trying to get across, which I hope everyone got that only 9% of your plastic is actually getting recycled, no matter what you're putting in the bin. It's actually down to 5% now, which was devastating to hear. We launched this campaign and then new data came out that it was down to 5%. But yeah, the licensing, it was complex. It's a 6-month cycle, so there's a lot of thought. On top of the SAG fees, the licensing fees, this was not a cheap commercial. We created some more different cuts that are a bit more direct response, 15 seconds, so we tend to run those on linear, and this has had more streaming airtime. It's just part of the media mix.
I have one wrap question about purpose. So
Yeah.
one of the downsides of being very popular in retail is that do you ever have internal discussions about losing the sense of purpose because you come to be seen as another CPG? You're just another thing on the shelf, another choice right next to all the stuff from the big guys. Mm-hmm. Is that actually a part of the equation, that as you become bigger and better known, as you sort of are integrating into this retail experience, that the mission of Grove, that sustainability mission, might get lost or might not come through?
It's the opposite for us. I think if every retailer takes us on and we're there as a choice versus the plastic Dawn bottle that is filled with petroleum, that's what you're washing your dishes with. That's why it can get oil off birds and things like that, then we're actually expanding the accessibility and the choice for people, to choose the aluminum bottle that's infinitely recyclable, For us, it's funny, we sort of see this as we're challenging all the other CPG companies to do better. Mm-hmm. Step up, do better, the materials are out there, We've made the commitment to be plastic free by 2025. I don't know that we can actually fully get there, but we're going to try. And we're trying to take everyone along with us for the ride. This isn't about just us meeting that goal. Mm-hmm. I think really we win, consumers win, and the planet wins when everyone takes that goal more seriously. The stats and are kind of terrifying with where the world's going with regards to that. So for us, we sort of see it as even more important, and retail's just expanding that accessibility and awareness to that.
Samantha Howe, thank you so much.